and welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show, also known as Substack Live. And joining us right now, Danielle Moodie, host of the Danielle Moodie Show on YouTube, the Fire Pit series on Substack, which I was on recently, and co-host of Democracy-ish Live. Danielle, nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
It's great to be here, and I think the only person who might be sweating more than me is Donald Trump. If he was in touch with that, but we know there's panic because today he is panicking. He is literally resharing posts to hang 6 Democratic members of Congress
Yeah.
for calling. And these 6 members, they all serve in the military intelligence community, simply said to the members of the military, which is consistent with the military justice code, don't follow illegal orders. But that's not what it's about. Like this, folks, everybody knows you can't follow legal orders. That's not what it's about. Danielle, he is literally reposting they should be hung, seditious conspiracy, that they should go in jail. And it is to distract from both Epstein and the economic data, which you don't even need the data. You know it's bad. But here, corporate media is going to go like sheep. They're like, oh, we have to go follow this
Yeah.
now. Oh, the little sheep. So, what is your take? I mean, what do you expect from corporate media? And what do we do? How do we not get sucked in ourselves? Because sometimes the things are shiny and attractive, but there are other issues that are more important.
I mean, I do think that the military issue is wildly important, though,
Mhm.
because you have these illegal strikes that have happened in the Caribbean Sea on fishermen. Because, by the way, the government, right, the Trump regime, has refused to release any information that would allow us to even think that, oh, okay, maybe they are going after their quote unquote narco terrorists. But even still, then, those people require and should have due process, right? How do you know that they're narco terrorists? Right? We are not just a for hire and strike organization, a crime organization. We're supposed to be the United States of America, which follows the
Right.
rules of law, right? And so even, we've had, and I know that they've backtracked recently, but the UK, who shares intelligence with us, has said, we're not going to share intelligence with regard to what is happening in Venezuela because we don't trust you. They have since backtracked and tried to tread lightly on that and said, oh, well, we kind of say, share information, but not really. But the fact is, they don't want to get caught up at The Hague, okay? Like, let's just be clear about why the UK has said that. You don't like we know that the military is not supposed to follow illegal orders, but we are also children of history, right? We're also students of history and know that all too often, right, that the military gets overtaken by an authoritarian, by a dictator, and it's either you keep your job or you die. You follow my orders or your family doesn't eat, or now you're enemies list number one. So we know that those things have happened in other countries. It's never happened in the United States, but we're in, times that we have never, unprecedented times, as the mainstream corporate media loves to say. So I think it's important that these Democrats came out and
Mhm.
made this video. I think that it's important because here's the thing: Donald Trump's reaction, if you weren't doing illegal shit, you just let the video slide. If you
Right.
weren't doing things that were criminal that could be investigated later, you wouldn't respond by saying that the very people that are just saying, hey, follow the rules, should be hung. Just saying, you told on yourself.
But I also, I mean, I think strategically Trump sees something that it might rile his base up because there are Republican members in Congress who flagged the video first. But you make an excellent point, and it's something that the substance underlying thing that triggered or that prompted the members of Congress to put out this video really has not been discussed in great detail in the media, a little bit. But for example, and these are the military strikes. Do people know how many briefings from the intelligence community that members of Congress have gotten about the military strikes we've been doing for months? The answer is zero. Zero. Like they're just killing people. They even, and I was looking at some reporting just before we came on here, and I'll read from it, Danielle. It says military lawyers have been conspicuously absent from recent congressional hearings on the operation. So the key lawmakers ask for things. Members who go to the Hill for like oversight things, they're asked about it, but there's no military lawyers there. We have no idea who they're killing. And this is
Yeah.
the country. This is. It should be shocking for everyone. It should, if a Democratic president was just slaughtering people off the coast of another country because you wanted to overthrow that regime, people will be going ballistic about it. So questions have to be asked.
I mean, questions have to be asked, but we also have to remind ourselves that this was written out in Project 2025. They wanted
Hmm.
to seize Venezuela. Why do they want to take over Venezuela and have a regime change? Because they want to be able to extract the oil and other minerals that they need, that they want for AI, right? For the data centers, and also just oil, right? And Venezuela is a prime target for them. They wrote it out. So, of course, you're going to make up. This is an international wag the dog scenario. You're going to make up a crime that is happening there in order to be able to seize over this government, in order to be able to create this grand distraction from the fact that we're never, even though Donald Trump signed those Epstein files, and I know we're going to get to him, we ain't ever seeing them. And I think that folks need to like wrap their brain around it. But the fact that the sitting president of the United States is calling for the execution and punishment of Democrats by death for daring to say that our military should follow the rule of law tells you that this man is insane. He is an authoritarian. And he also, just, when he was chilling with MBS in the Oval Office, said, we agree on almost everything. The man is a murderer and a terrorist. But Donald
Right.
Trump, that's his main man, and they agree on almost anything. He murdered a journalist and dismembered him. Donald Trump says, we agree on almost everything.
I agree with you. And look, there's layers to it. There's the substantive issue that we have to cover. There's Trump's effort to distract from one Epstein because he signed it now. It's not over. It's a 30-day window to give us the documents. But today we got economic data, which remind me how corporate media, and I don't know why they do this, they think they're sucking up to Trump. The headlines were jobs report exceeds expectations, about 119,000 new jobs created September because we're trailing because of the shutdown. 119,000 jobs. Do you know how many jobs were created November of 2024, a year ago? In that time, about 230 or 40,000. So you've got a situation where it's 2 to 1. The Fox News poll yesterday showed nearly 75% of Americans the economy is not working for them. Trump's approval rating in the Fox News poll on the economy is his lowest this entire time, even time basically the lowest in the first term. There's economic trouble. So Trump is trying to distract from both the economy by lying about it, telling you the economy's better than you think. Ignore the prices on the register. Those aren't real. It's a hoax. It's fake news. And of course, Epstein's going on. So I mean, I think the struggle for us always is to try to inform people and not be sucked into where corporate media is going. But sometimes they do match up. I mean, there are times corporate media is covering the real issue. It just happens like
I
Epstein, they
mean,
did cover.
I think that we have to walk, ride a unicycle, chew gum, and juggle at the same time in order to keep up with this regime. And I think that the fact, one, that Donald Trump came out yesterday and said, I'm about affordability, I'm about jobs, because again, he has to distract from what people are paying attention to, which is that he's negative 39% on the Epstein files. He's negative double digits on the economy. His approval rating is at 38%, right? Which only matches his other low in his first term. And so when we look at, we don't even, I mean, at this point, we've had private data centers give us the jobs numbers that the Labor Department isn't going to provide to us, right? Because Donald Trump just keeps firing every statistician that doesn't give him the numbers that he wants, right? He just fires those people and says to somebody else, give me some other math, right? Because, Megan Kelly, not Megan Kelly, what is her name? Kelly Conway told us that there was alternative facts. In this regime, there's alternative math. So I went to the grocery store today. I'm looking at the meat prices and I'm saying, holy shit, the meat prices are up two, three, $4, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you are. We're in New York City, and I'm like, oh shit, the coffee prices are two, three, four more dollars than they were last year at this time. So people are not dumb. You want to tell us to pay attention to kitchen table issues, and I can't put food on the kitchen table because I'm having to make really hard decisions between like what I can afford and what I can't. And now you're careening towards the end of the year where millions of people are going to be kicked off of their health care, and or because it's going to double, the premiums are going to double. I tell people every day, Dean, marketplace for me, New York City marketplace, I already pay $700 a month for health care. I can't afford to pay anymore, right? And I'm just a single individual. Talk to me about a family of four and what that looks like. So Donald Trump, he can tell us whatever fuzzy math that he wants, but at the end of the day, American people are hurting. And remember, Elon Musk told us that we'll have to go through some necessary pain, but then there'll be light on the other side. Bitch, I'm with a flashlight. I'm looking. Where's the light?
I agree. And Elon Musk's idea of paying is getting $1 trillion payment package, which the board of Tesla agreed for him. Look, it's the prices. You can't tell anyone. No politician can, not Democrat or Republican, can tell you the economy is better or worse than you're feeling it. So when someone's going, the economy's horrible, like it's actually pretty good. Or the reverse now, the economy's a struggle for everyone. There's steaks prices. I'm buying a T-bone steak on layaway. I'm like 3 payments away right now because my
I hope
bagel
you will
store
enjoy it,
right,
for Juneteenth or
in the
like
new
the
year,
4th of
right?
July.
And the bagel store, bagel and butter, it was at the time when we got out of COVID, it was like $2. Now it's like 3.80. I go and I'm like, just stop. Like I'm gonna buy now. Can I lock in future prices of the bagel and butter? What is going on? You're making the bagel right here. But this is what everybody feels. So we see the prices going up. You see the struggle, zero focus on affordability by Republicans. And healthcare is part of affordability. And Republicans' idea, oh, now we're gonna have a plan. Bullshit. You never had a plan. All your
15
plan was to
years.
get rid of the ACA. That was your entire plan to gut it. We need to talk about Medicare for all. This is the perfect time to have this conversation about bringing down the age of eligibility for Medicare from 65 to like 60 or 55, and then little by little you stress test the program. The program is already built. It's working. It's what we can do. You're gonna have to pay. Everyone pays a little more on their check, but to know it's gonna be there for us, and it costs a lot less than 700 a month. It's gonna cost people what you get for Medicare, which is in the area of like $200 each month.
I mean, when you, of course, they don't care about affordability. We watch, I mean, every time that I look at a press conference that Donald Trump is holding inside of the Oval Office, there's more gold, right? There is more gold on the walls.
Yep.
Every time, right? There's a gold brick on his desk that was given to him by Switzerland. There's like more tacky fucking gold, that is up on the wall, making it look like the Taj Mahal. Like, and so the juxtaposition, Dean, is what I think is really insane right now. Is that
Right.
Donald Trump just had his state dinner with a terrorist and a murderer, right? Because Muslims are good, by the way. I don't know if you knew this. Muslims are good so long as you're a billionaire. If you're
Oh,
not a billionaire and you actually fight for equity and are progressive, blah, blah, you're a terrorist. But if you're an actual terrorist, but you're a billionaire, you're cool beans. So you're watching this juxtaposition of this just obscene greed, wealth, gold, tackiness, and his people are burning their hats. Do you know what I'm saying? They're burning their MAGA hats. They're at food lines. All right, like the Gilded Age 2.0. This is bigger than that. Marie Antoinette. At least she wanted us to have the French to have some type of cake, right? They don't want you to have shit. Right? They want you to have absolutely nothing and be happy if the dirt that you would turn into a pancake, you know what I'm saying? They'll say it has iron.
it's you can never have a more of a juxtaposition of a tone deaf leader like Donald Trump when people are struggling and he's talking about a ballroom and showing off the gifts that he got from other leaders and hanging out with billionaires. And I will say one thing as an aside, the criticism of MBS is rightful, it's righteous, it should be done. He is awful. I just wish there was that level of criticism when he sat next to Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a man literally charged with war crimes in the middle of a genocide, and that's the UN's own designation of it, not me saying it, designation of what's happening in Gaza. And you had teeny bit of pushback. The outrage for MBS, it should be there. I'm not. There's no defense. He's terrible. But also, it should be the same thing for Netanyahu, where it becomes un un untenable to have a person like that in the White House with you. Then Netanyahu, there's no one except for the far right that likes him. There are even people who are pro-Israel, who are Jewish in New York, don't like him anymore. He's not good for their community. They know that. And so Trump meets with Netanyahu, and it's no big deal. So that's a double standard that upset me. Netanyahu, MBS deserves everything. Every
Yeah.
criticism you want to
Yeah.
give him, fine. It should have been even louder for
Yeah.
Netanyahu. And it's
Agree.
sort of like, well, it's Netanyahu. So, but I want to talk about Epstein for a second. And you made a bigger point. I saw a clip of you, and I think you're on MS Now. It's not
Yeah.
NBC. MS Now. It's
Now.
now, right now. It's not MS later. I'm gonna be on
Correct.
MS later. But you're talking about the bigger picture of Epstein abuse of women in our society, and I try to have those conversations, and they can be challenging. People get defensive. There are men who get defensive, to be honest. But statistically, every 74 seconds, someone in the U.S. is sexually assaulted. Every 74 seconds, and over 90% are women. You have a situation where in our society, even more broadly, every day 3 women are killed by their boyfriend or an ex or their current husband.
Yeah.
And these are not things we talk about. Even the Epstein files would give us an opportunity to have a broader conversation. And I noticed such a great deal of discomfort in having that for men, and so for some women. I think I can understand it triggers traumatic experience in their lives. But we need to have these discussions if we're going to address this.
Yeah, when we look at the numbers and just the stats, like I remember, and and you probably do too, 100 moons ago when I was going into undergrad, right? And the statistic then was that 1 in 5 women on college campuses would be raped, right? 1 in 5. And I remember going on to a college campus as a freshman and being absolutely terrified and thinking to myself, how do we all know this number and yet there is nothing that is done? What we see now is that, oh well, we have women only spaces, and in certain areas there's like women only clubs, and women only pushing for women only subway cars and all of these things, and I'm like, the problem is men. So I don't need to create different spaces in order for women to be. I need to create a society that says that the abuse of women and girls is unacceptable, right? And that when a girl or a woman comes and says, I have been abused, that we don't need to have backup of 100 and 1,000 other voices behind us that say that the same thing happened to them. I think that what the Epstein case shows us, right? How long this kind of disgusting syndicate of pedophilia had gone on over decades just shows you how little this society values girls and women. Right now, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, you've had Megyn Kelly, right? Talking to us about, well, isn't there a difference between, like, sex? By the way, she used the term sex with an 8-year-old and sex with a 15-year-old. First of all, you don't have sex with an 8-year-old and you don't have sex with a 15-year-old. That's just called rape.
Right.
Because unless you are 18 years old, you have no ability to legally consent, right? That is just called rape. So the language that we use, right, the barely legal makes it seem as if, well, they look older than they are. I don't care. I don't care if the girl looks like she's 40, but she's 12. The fact is, she's 12, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that in this society, we have pervasive abuse of women, and girls, and we don't care because the penalties for those crimes, right, are very low. And the ability for those women to claim abuse and actually get people to be held accountable and responsible for those crimes is very far and few in between, right? And so
Yeah.
there are other countries, and I wish I remembered which country it was, that have started lessons with young boys and girls in school, teaching them about like empathy, about care, about like what it means to be like a good partner and a good person, right? Like these are values that of course we would want families to instill in their children, but the fact is that you spend more time, right, in school, where school should be also reinforcing, right, how we value each other and how we care for one another so that we can create the kind of society where we don't have these stats, but we have just kind of shrugged it off and said, well, that's kind of the price of being a woman.
If Let me put it this way: if women were killing 3 men every day in America, if that was statistic, men would be going ballistic. You would have, neighborhood watches of all guys. Guys would talk about women. Why are you killing us? All this stuff. But when it's the reverse, and those are the statistics in America today, and we have an epidemic of domestic violence, it's not talked about. There's a discomfort that is so deep, and I think it means different things for different people. I've had men actually say to me, I used to do some advocacy on the issue about domestic violence, and I actually put some comedy shows together, all male comics. We raise money for organizations that combat it. I'd have these guys get very defensive, and they go like, "Well, if you hit women, why are you accusing me?" I'm like, "I didn't do anything to women." I'm like, "We are doing this as men. Why are you so defensive? I'm not accusing you
Right.
of anything. It's not an accusation. I'm talking about society." These are the
Right.
statistics. We should not accept this. We should work towards making it a better, safer society for everybody, for all genders. But
Right.
women are the ones suffering the brunt of this. And it was very odd to have those conversations with guys by email. They get angry about it and stuff. And I learned a lot about our society. I mean, there are things, but I want to touch on one last topic here, but it's intertwined. We saw Donald Trump berate two female reporters, one in
Yep.
Air Force One on Friday, then one in the Oval Office in front of MBS. And I don't subscribe to the view that the male reporters had to stand up. I think any reporter should have stood up. It's not like, it's more gender. Like, why didn't the man stand up? Why didn't anybody stand up for these reporters? And if you've all made a deal to allow this Trump to do this because you don't want to be the story, then tell us that deal has been made. Because if not, it looks like your corporate media, it's such a testament to how corrupt corporate media is that you don't want to lose access to the White House and lose your gig as a White House reporter. So you let Donald Trump berate reporters, in vile, despicable comments. The piggy comment was one of the worst things. It was so jarring for
And
so
it got
many.
no news. Only
It,
only independent folks and voices like yours and like mine have been talking about it. I didn't see it on the front of anybody's paper.
it's off the chart. So, well, I mean, what is your view? I'm trying to be fair to the corporate media reporters. They navigate through a difficult time. It's not that they lack the courage. They would never have been made White House correspondent for a major publication if they didn't have the courage and the brains to ask tough questions. They've made a choice to be silent. And it's beyond me why, because I would speak up. And if you're not going to speak up, then corporate media journalists step aside. Let independent media people, let us in the Oval Office. You want to see question after question of Donald Trump? Like Danielle, follow up. I have a follow up. I have a follow up. It would be all day. And then, Dean, all of us be asking questions. But what do you think it is about corporate media? Is it just the world they navigate in, that they don't care about the others? Or you think
I
they
mean,
made a
what?
deal? Let's
But
not
like,
talk about it?
where, is the White House Correspondents? Is that just a party? Because I thought it was an
Right.
association. I thought it
Right.
was an association that, like, everyone followed a certain rule and codes of conduct and all of these things. For me, it's like I don't know when mainstream corporate media is going to realize that the political landscape has changed drastically and that we have actually more power and a bigger voice collectively than we do individually. And I know, right? We all know the game. Certainly, everyone wants to break the news, everybody wants to scoop or what have you. But when you are on Air Force One, when you are in the Oval Office, you all are asking the same goddamn questions, right? And you could actually get more done. One, if you were echoing each other, right? And so if he's not going to go to this person, then that person is going to ask the same question because you're all going to write the same story. That being said, I was appalled by the fact that no one said anything because
Yeah.
it shouldn't be left just to men or to women to stand up. Everyone either should have walked out and been like, we're done for the day. Like, that's a wrap, right? All of the reporters file out and go back to their seats, or they all stand up for that person. And frankly, every single time that a hard question is asked and he asks them what outlet they're from, somebody posted this. It was Sherilyn Eiffel who reposted somebody who said this on threads. And I don't remember who it was, but they were like, anytime that Donald Trump says what outlet, like, who are you with, which is what he says, they should
Mhm.
respond, the American people.
Hmm.
Every
That's
single
good.
person. It
Good
doesn't matter.
answer.
It shouldn't matter what outlet that
Right.
you're with, whether it's a right wing outlet, a left wing. It doesn't matter. Who are you with? I'm with the American people, right?
I like
And
it.
and ask the question. Every single goddamn reporter should say that, right? Like, you have got to. They got to start playing like they are a part of a team, a sorority, a fraternity, a group that actually gives a shit about each other. But because the climate has always been about climbing on other people's backs and elbowing folks out of the way so that you get your moment in the sun, because that's how media works, right? Like, you elbow the person out of the way, you get the shot, you go viral, then you get a book deal, you got this, that, and the other thing going on. We're in a different environment where we actually need to care and show collective care and community across
And
these industries and spaces. And that was an opportunity to do it twice, and they failed.
nothing. It was as if that didn't even happen. They just ignore it and they start yelling out their question. Like they didn't just watch a reporter get abused by the president of the United States 2 feet from their face.
They're
Like
just like, it's
nothing.
not
Like,
me. It
I'm,
wasn't
I'm
me.
like, what? How do you do that as a person? That's what's stunning to me. And just to remind people, last month, all the media reporters banded together when the Pentagon, under Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of
Yep.
Beer and Tattoos, wanted certain rules that you can only have certain things. And they all, even Fox News, like, we're done. And they all left. But the White House Correspondents' and by the way, the White House Correspondents Association, as of last night still, had not put out a statement slamming Trump for either of the attacks against journalists who were members of the White House Correspondents Association. Like, what are you doing? All right,
Well,
before
they
I
don't
have
want
to,
their dinner canceled, Dean.
that's
They
it.
don't want their party canceled.
Trump's not going anyway, so stop it. So, Daniel, before I let you go, where can people follow your great work, my friend?
This has been so fun. I love talking with you.
It's great chatting.
Folks can follow me here on Substack at the Damn Digest. You can also follow me on YouTube at Danielle Moodie. And I host a bazillion shows, the Fire Pit series, where I do interviews with wonderful people like Dean. I also co host Democracy Ish with Wajahat Ali. And I do the check in weekly with Jared Yates Sexton, who is another fantastic voice. But as I always say, all of my content is free. So please, consider subscribing. And if you do have a few bucks, consider becoming a paid subscriber.
Help her out. Everyone, help each other out. We're all in this together. We're fighting the good fight. Well, thank you, Danielle. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to all the people who are making comments. I wish we could respond, but it's good to see everyone. Thanks, Danielle. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Bye bye.